So the triumphal entry is the name. By the way, I begin every lecture with so. I can't listen to myself. They always recorded me for Bible study, and I would listen to myself and I would think.
Eli, did you decide to pass off the
I laugh at my own jokes.
All right.
And I noticed when I'm putting these on YouTube, I start every lecture with so. What does that mean? But, so, yes.
Scientifically, we all hate ourselves, and everything that we do.
You don't hate myself. That's sad. No, I just don't like this. I don't see I don't sound. Okay, we're up here now. So the triumphal entry is the technical term for what we call Palm Sunday, when Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey. And it backs up a little bit here. We talk about Caiaphas. Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what Jesus did, raising Lazarus, believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. So the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered the council and said, "What are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation." So then Caiaphas says this, the high priest, "You know nothing at all, nor do you understand that it is better for you that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish." That was an end prophecy. And then we went through all these neurological things. He did not say this of his own accord, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation, and not for the nation only, but also to gather into one the children of God who are scattered abroad. So from that day on, they made plans to put him to death. So now okay, Aubrey, I think now is the time. So at this point, the execution of Jesus has become, kind of set in stone. Like this is the plan now. They're not just trying to stop him from saying things or stop him from doing things. They're trying to stop him completely. So from that day on, they made plans to put him to death. Jesus therefore no longer walked openly among the Jews, but he went from there to the region near the wilderness, to a town called Ephraim. And there he stayed with the disciples. Now the Passover of the Jews was at hand, and many went up from the country to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. They were looking for Jesus. They were expecting him. And saying to one another as they stood in the temple, "What do you think? That he will not come to the feast at all?" Now the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knew where he was, he should let them know, so that they might arrest him. And so Jesus was there for a while in Ephraim. So 6 days before the Passover, Jesus therefore came to Bethany, where Lazarus, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. When the large crowd of the Jews learned that Jesus was there, they came not only on account of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. So the chief priests made plans to put Lazarus to death as well, because on account of Lazarus, many of the Jews were going away and believing in Jesus. So the plan is coming to fruition. Now, the king's royal entry. I think this is where we left off. And by the way, your essay is on this, so you want to write down as much as possible about what I'm about to say. So your curriculum says that there's 7 steps of his entry. They don't mean like actual steps, but they're going to list 7 things that happen during this triumphal entry. So let's read verses 12 through 17. The next day, the large crowd that had come to the feast heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem. So they took branches of palm trees and went out to meet him, crying out, Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, even the King of Israel. And Jesus found a young donkey and sat on it, just as it is written, Fear not, daughter of Zion. Behold, your king is coming, sitting on a donkey. His disciples did not understand these things at first, but when Jesus was glorified, so after he resurrected, then they remembered that these things had been written about him and had been done to him. The crowd that had been with him when he called Lazarus out of the tomb and raised him from the dead continued to bear witness. So, the Bible doesn't record the events of Saturday, which isn't all that surprising, because that would have been a day of rest for Jesus as well as all of the Jews, as it's the Jewish Sabbath. But all four Gospels record this. They have some some give details that others don't. Doesn't mean they are at odds with each other. Some remembered one part of it, and somebody else remembered another part of it. So this is recorded in Matthew 21, in Mark 11, and Luke 19, and then here in John 12. So let's talk about these seven ends to the 7 steps to his entry into Jerusalem. So he walked from Bethany to Bethany. I know that doesn't look like it's pronounced Bethany, but it is pronounced Bethany. Beth means house of, and so Bethany means the house of figs. So they must have grown figs there, and it was a village on the Mount of Olives. So you see here the Mount of Olives, the Kidron Valley, and then this is Jerusalem, and that's the temple. And Bethany, I think it's going to show you, but Bethany is not far from Bethany, about a mile from Bethany, and on the other side of the mountain. So remember that Bethany was about 2 miles from Jerusalem, and Bethany is about a mile. You just go over the Mount of Olives, and you're there. So Jesus walked from Bethany to Bethany, and then he stopped on the outskirts of Bethany. And he sends 2 disciples to get him a donkey, an unbroken donkey, meaning a donkey, gentlemen, a donkey that nobody had ever ridden before. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is. But the disciples got the donkey, brought the donkey to Jesus, and then Jesus rode on that donkey down the Mount of Olives. And as he is doing this, the people are laying their cloaks down and laying, I believe, olive branches down before him. And they're saying, Hosanna, which means, oh, save. Basically what they're saying is, save us, Jesus. Is he going to? Yeah. Is that what they're expecting? If you continued that Hosanna, it would be, oh, save us from the Romans. They want him to be king. And then they say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. They are, I think, in fact, worshiping Jesus. Keep that thought in mind. They are laying their cloaks down as if he is a king. And they're saying, save us from Rome. Be our king. You are blessed by God. And so I think the disciples probably were like, this is it. This is it. This is when we get to the sidekicks to the king of Israel. This is going to be great. Not knowing what was really going to happen. He wasn't riding to a crown. He was riding to a cross. And he would have a crown of thorns. But only Jesus knew that. So Jesus was hailed as king. And as Jesus neared the city of Jerusalem, the crowds rushed and they were waving palm branches, another thing that would be done for kings, and crying out, as I said, Hosanna, blessed is he, blessed is the King of Israel, but that cometh in the name of the Lord. And at this point, Jesus is overcome with emotion, and he weeps. He weeps over Jerusalem. So it's a different kind of weeping. It is audible weeping. The word isn't like, I don't know if I don't know if you've ever cried, but if you've cried, like just tears going down your eyes and maybe a little sniffle or something, it's more than that and less than Cleo, less than a loud wailing. But it is an audible weeping. I imagine the people would have been confused by that. He's weeping over Jerusalem, and he's weeping because they don't get it. They're lost. And he's weeping over the lost. And I think he says something, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, I wish I could take you and hold you close. And basically he's saying, I wish that you could understand what's really going on. And so he wept over Jerusalem with an intense sorrow and compassion. And then Jesus, this is the weird part. He went into the temple, and now people are probably like, okay, here we go. He's going to say something, get himself in trouble. Let's come on. Here it comes. And he walks in, and he looks around, and he leaves. And I'm sure the disciples are like, dude, what's going on? Why? Wait, do something. Tell the leaders to get lost or do a miracle or something. He just looked around. By the way, he was fulfilling prophecy in doing that. And so it was probably a bitter disappointment. Probably not just to the disciples and those that were yelling, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Probably to the Pharisees and the Sadducees as well. Because they wanted a reason, they wanted a reason to arrest him. And so far, he hadn't given that to him. And so the disciples were likely confused and didn't understand what was happening. Now, let's talk about the object. Let's talk about the donkey, shall we? By the way, can't use the donkey. I don't know what to call it. That's different. But anyway, why wouldn't he ride a horse? We would think that if he's hailed as king, he would be riding a horse. Here's why. Jewish kings were commanded by God to not have horses.
Why?
And that's a good question. A horse is obviously a very majestic animal, right? And the king would be up way higher than if he were on a donkey. And God intended the kings of Israel to be humble. And so riding on a donkey would be a symbol of humility. And here's the verses from Deuteronomy. When you come to the land that the Lord your God is giving you, and you possess it and dwell in it, and then say, I will set a king over me, like all the nations that are around you. You may indeed set a king over you, whom the Lord your God will choose. One from among your brothers you shall set as king over you. You may not put a foreigner over you, who is not your brother, only he must not acquire many horses for himself, or cause the people to return to Egypt in order to acquire many horses, since the Lord has said to you, you shall never return that way again. And he shall not acquire many wives for himself, lest his heart turn away, nor shall he acquire for himself excessive silver and gold. By and large, both Saul and David obeyed at least part of this. Solomon went full bore on all of it. The horses, the wives, the silver, the gold, and he did not wise man. Not the wise. That was not wise. That was just not wise. And then in addition to this, and I'm sorry,
that's what I was going to ask about Solomon. And I was like, what about Solomon?
Yeah. And David had his problems as well. We're all doing runs. Then also Jesus is not only was a symbol of humility, but Jesus is and a symbol of kingship, as we just read, a symbol of kingship. But Jesus is also fulfilling prophecy here. Over and over and over again, Jesus knowingly fulfilled prophecy. And in this case, it's a prophecy from Zechariah 9:9. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout aloud, O daughter of Jerusalem. Is that what they're doing? Is that what the people are doing? Absolutely. Yes. Behold, your king is coming to you, righteous and having salvation is he, humble and mounted on a donkey, on a colt, an unbroken donkey, a donkey that has never been ridden before, the foal of a donkey. Jesus knows that he's fulfilling prophecy. The people don't know that, obviously, but Jesus does, and that's why one of the reasons why he did it. Now, so here, that's that picture I want you to have, because this is what your essay is going to be about. That they're praising him, that they're wanting to make him king, that they're saying, "Oh, save us," and they're all for him. And then what happened?
Bless you.
Bless you. On Christ. They're saying, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord on Sunday. And by Friday they're saying,
Die.
And that is fickleness. Fickleness, I don't know if you know the word fickle, but it's a funny word, fickle. It means changeableness. It means you're one way 1 minute and you're another way another. You're not consistent. And the people were fickle. So the Pharisees stood by helplessly while Jesus entered Jerusalem. And I'm sure they felt like the whole world was turning to Christ. But they failed to take into account a couple of things. Okay, it's not on there. It says it's on there. The sovereignty of God. God is sovereign, and nothing is going to happen in this story or any story that he has not ordained. And so they hailed him as king one day, and then a few days later, they crucified him. They call for his crucifixion. That is the fickle-mindedness of the world toward Jesus. God, didn't plan for Christ to be made king. And Jesus knew that. At least at that point. Will he be crowned king? Absolutely. And the people were ready for it, or so they thought. They were looking for the wrong kind of king. But God was not. It was not time for him. It was not his hora. It was his hora to die now, but not to become king. And God's will is ultimately accomplished no matter what we do. No matter what we do or we don't do, God will accomplish his will. Isn't that interesting? How can he? Because he's God. And I don't think that the fickleness, the changeableness of human beings has ever been on display more and more tragically than right here. That within a span of a few days, they go from loving him to killing him. They're completely enthralled with Jesus on Sunday. And they cry out, crucify him. They also cry out, let his blood be on us and our children. Some of the most chilling words. But here's the thing, we can be hard on the Jews, but we do that too. Not to this extent. We go on a mission trip or go on a retreat or to a camp, and we're fired up. And we want to live for Jesus. And then we get back to the real world. We can be fickle too. All people. I guess my hope is that we would all live every day saying, Hosanna, blessed is he, and worshiping and loving Jesus. Okay, that's the end of the lecture. So you have a good 5 minutes or so to work on your questions. I'll write on the board that those are due on Monday. I will collect them. I will grade them. Yes.
Have you ever read Exodus 2:11 through 12?
Can you hit
Oh,
stop?
yeah.